I am here. It's a few minutes before 5 o'clock Eastern Time, so I thought I'd pop in and wait for a few minutes. I'll have some posts um, that will be in here in the group, so you'll be able to see them shortly. What I'm doing today is I'm reading from Stormy Affair. I'm not sure if I've read from this before for you guys. If anybody is here and they want to suggest a different book, feel free, and I will take a look at it to see if I can do it. So I'm just looking to see. Oh, I just heard about Dolly Parton a little while ago. It's really quite sad. You know, there's so many people we're getting notices for, and it's really sad. All right, so there's nobody here yet. No viewers. I'm not sure if it's going to be well visited, because I think it's 2 o'clock your time, well, PST, Pacific time, and I'm actually 5 o'clock, so there's a bit of a difference. But first off, before I get into reading, I have my newest release is this book, Devotion. It is book 3 in the Black Phantom series. So if you have read the first 2, this is number 3. And I did put Obsession, which is the first book, in paperback. So you'll be able to, if you want to have a paperback, you have the complete set, all of them. And I have a new cover for Passion Cowboy Style, which I kind of love. And there's follow-up sequel to this book is Love Cowboy Style, and it's a new cover as well. And if you're on my newsletter list, today I sent out my new newsletter, and I've recovered this book. A lot of people didn't like him. And you know, nobody seemed to, like, if I was at an event or pretty much wherever, I asked people, do you like this cover? Like, is there something about this cover you like or you don't like? And they said they didn't like him. They thought he was mean looking. So I've redesigned the cover, and a post will pop up during my takeover time here, showing you the new cover, which is out, available now, both in paperback and in ebook. So I don't know if you can hear it in my face, in my voice rather. I was in Australia. I've been back a week and a half now, and I was in Australia visiting my author friend, Rianne Cahill, and we were both going to a book signing up in Surfers Paradise, which is up by Brisbane. And she had been sick in June and had gotten better. And then when I arrived on Saturday, and then on Monday night, she fell sick again. And I thought, damn, I'm going to get it. And I did. I was pretty sick I'm still sick. I'm getting better each day, but it wasn't nice. I fell sick hard on the Sunday after the signing, and then we drove back to her place. It was like a 12-hour drive, and I see somebody might be here. And it was a 12-hour drive back to her place down south of Sydney, and I slept the whole way. I was like a totally useless shotgun rider. So, and then that week just seemed to be like a blur. My brain fog, the whole thing, and I went through about 2 boxes of tissues. It was just not nice at all. And then I was worried about flying home because I was coughing a lot, which thankfully has stopped. And it stopped a while ago, maybe about 5 or 6 days ago. And it got better before I got on the plane, because I was worried, people look at you sideways when you start coughing. So I was coughing into pillows and stuff. So I'm home and did a lot of sleeping, and I gave myself permission to rest and relax last week, which is important to do if you're not feeling well. Even though I had a lot of things that I had to do, I just napped and relaxed. I crocheted. I listened to some books and just wanted to get better. And today is the first day that I'm feeling a bit more human, which is good. So I hope every day is a better day. But Australia was wonderful. The book signing was great. Met lots of wonderful people, and I didn't come home with as many books as I took, so that is always a bonus. And I got to do some sightseeing. I fed kangaroo. We went down to Shoal Harbor Zoo, which is more of a naturalist type zoo than like a touristy zoo, and petted a koala, and then he was sleeping, so we weren't allowed to hold him or anything. And so then he woke up a little bit, and then he turned and he was looking out at everybody, and I got this beautiful picture, which is in my newsletter. So if you guys didn't get my newsletter, but you would like to get my newsletter, make a comment in this video live that you want to see. You would like to get that newsletter, and then I can send you the link and you can have a look at it, and then you can always sign up. Pardon me. So that was really good. And then we met another little cute creature, which is also in the picture in my newsletter. And I think they called it a swamp kangaroo, but it was a tiny little, cute as a button, nocturnal creature, which it was really sweet. But there was a lot, and then there was the kangaroos, of course, that you could walk up in between their pens and buy food to feed to them. So we had food, and I was feeding one. They're not the great big ones. I think they call those ones big reds. I saw more of those on the side of the highway that did not make it across than seeing them live. But so we saw those, and it was really fun to see them. They're so cute, and they're very gentle when they were taking food from your hand. And then what else? Oh, beautiful black cockatoos. Oh my gosh, they were gorgeous. Glitter on them. They sparkled. It was really, really nice. And what else? Oh, we went down to, well, on the way up to Surfers Paradise. See, my brain's still fuzzy. Up to Surfers Paradise. We stopped and spent the night in Coff Harbor, which was really cool. We stayed in an old pub that had rooms at the top, overnight there, and then drove on up, and we stopped at a place called the Big Banana. And then there was a big banana out front, and had lunch in there, and oh my gosh, that sandwich was like amazingly good. And then we drove up to Surfers Paradise, it reminded me a lot of what Miami looks like, with all the little intercoastal waterways and the big hotels and the beach. We did walk down to the beach the first night, so we went, and it was windy. And then we drove home. We went to see, oh my gosh, I can't remember the name of it, but it's a blowhole. It's on the tip of my tongue. Anyways, Kaya blowhole. I know it was something like that. And that was pretty neat. And you needed to be there at high tide and when there's a good swell, so that when the water comes in, it just shoots up. And that was pretty neat. I got a nice video of that. And what else? So yeah, then I did some shopping there, and then we went to Sydney Harbor, top up my family souvenirs, and saw the Sydney Bridge. We didn't climb it because apparently you need to book it like months in ahead, and I'm not sure I'd want to climb it anyways when I see how high it is up there, and you could see all the little people standing on the top. And then of course we saw the opera center, the Sydney Opera Hall, and got some pictures taken around there. Had a wonderful brunch at a place called the Grounds, which was not at the Sydney Harbor. It was we had to take a train to get there, and it had roasters in there, and they would have all their big bags of coffee beans, and then you can see how it all goes through all the systems and get sent off to the roasters, and that was a really, really good breakfast. And upstairs from there was a romance bookstore that only sold books with like sprayed edges, and there was all kinds of books in there and authors that you all know, it was such a nice store and kind of inspired me to maybe think about some sprayed edges. So we'll see where that goes. But and then I fell hard there, not like literally falling down. I started to feel really sick. So we were going to stay most of the day around there, but I just knew I wouldn't be able to cope. So we finished off the souvenir shopping and seeing what we needed to do, and then we ended up taking a train back. So it was about an hour and a half on the train, which was also really cool because you get to see the countryside. And I did sleep a bit on the train as well. So I see that somebody has tagged me. Oh, it's Karen. Hi, Karen. She's welcomed me to this group. So I'm talking live. Again, there's nobody here viewing, which is okay. Because what I'll do is I will start reading, and then I'll watch for comments coming in. And I'm just looking here because what happens, sometimes I don't see the comments right away. So let me pull up my book that I'm going to read. Uh-oh, where'd it go? It's on a different window. I'll bring it over to this window. Okie dokie. So hopefully I don't lose my spot. All right, so we are going to read the first chapter of Stormy Affair. Sip of water first with vitamin emergency in it. Okay, here we go. Laura gazed out the open taxi window. It was difficult to process that only hours ago she'd hopped on the first plane heading south with only a carry-on. If that didn't scream desperation, she didn't know what would. Yep, she was running, and now here she was, bouncing over a less than stellar road with sweet tropical air rushing in the window. It was glorious. She took deep breaths and let the sultry air work its magic on her. She was finally beginning to relax after weeks of being on edge, jumpy, and unsure of what to do. It had been soul-crushing. A canopy of trees arched over the road, and moon rays winked through the leaves. If only she had someone to share this with. This magical fairyland with its twinkling fireflies and the song of tree frogs. It was so beautiful it hurt. Had things not blown up like they had, she wouldn't have been here alone. But she was. Oof! The car bounced over a huge pothole and jarred her body, making her jaw snap. It felt like they bottomed out, a sensation made worse by the fact that the seats had no springs. Easy up there, please, she said to the driver. Sorry, miss, it's not a good road. No kidding, she said under her breath. But anyway, the car bucking over the road and its bone-cracking antics reminded her she wasn't numb anymore. She felt the pain and embraced it. She was alive. She needed this escape, and it was the perfect place to hide her embarrassment and humiliation. Laura lifted her face to the breeze again. She stuck her arm out the window, letting the wind flow over her hand. Anything to avoid picking up her phone to check her social media. The last few weeks had been brutal across all her accounts. She knew she'd have to email her agent soon. Pam would need to know why she'd fallen off the planet. When all this drama began, Pam had kicked damage control into high gear, doing what she could to salvage the last 2.5 years of hard work. Maybe that was a bit dramatic, but Laura knew the tide could turn and cancel culture was out there. Laura made a good living as a social media influencer. She'd fallen into it at the beginning of the pandemic, and her content had taken off. Timing and luck had propelled her to the top, and her reputation had grown exponentially. A reputation she carefully protected. Thankfully, all her current brand deals were completed, with more scheduled over the next few months. But for now, she was going dark. It was going to be tough to cut herself off and fade to black for a while, but she had to. She'd been played for a fool. It was difficult to admit she was running from a failed happy ever after, especially since she'd crowed about it for the last few months on her social media. Her vision swam as tingles swept up the back of her neck, blurring the twinkling of the fireflies. How could she be so stupid? She'd humiliated herself for all the world to see. Swallowing down a dizzying wave of vertigo, she rationalized it was the chance you took when you opened yourself up online. And hell, she was wide open. She'd been happy, thought she'd been in love, all of which made her feel worse now. She puffed out a breath to blow a strand of hair stuck to her forehead. It was hot. She'd shed as much clothing as modesty allowed while she waited in the taxi line, changed into flip flops, and shoved her leather boots into her already overstuffed bag. Traveling light seemed Traveling light still meant she had to make it all fit in her carry on. Thank goodness for sturdy zippers. She'd kept her face lowered and head down until it was her turn for a taxi. Laura caught a few brief glances and slipped on her sunglasses and baseball hat, pulling the brim over her face. She was used to being recognized in public, but it was the last thing she wanted right now. The wind streamed into the car and her hair were sorry. The wind streaming into the car and her hair were not getting along. She needed a clip to keep it off her face, but that meant rummaging in the bottom of her bag. So instead she gathered the strawberry curls into a bundle, wound it around, and did her best to knot it on top of her head. She imagined she could give Romancing the Stones' Joan Wilder a run for her money in the disheveled department. Only she was in a car and not riding down a mudslide on the side of a mountain with a hot guy landing between her legs. Laura bit back a smile. It lightened her mood for a moment. The rise and fall of her love life had been splashed all over the internet. All influencers took that risk, and there was always someone right behind you nipping at your heels. People were quick to share information, good, bad, and ugly. But when it affected her life and career, that was where she had to draw the line. And now it all hung in the balance. If it wasn't bad enough that she discovered her ex had cheated right around the time he proposed, but to see it gain traction across social media was unbearable. So here she was on an island she'd never heard of, in the back of a taxi, driving to an unknown destination in the middle of the night. Her escape had been spur of the moment, and everything was last minute booking, the flight and the accommodation. Arriving on Lunaris Cay was no plan, but with no plan was both exhilarating and a little frightening. She needed to find somewhere to stay, otherwise she'd have nowhere except maybe under a tree on the beach, which was a big nope. While she was waiting in the taxi line, she'd found a place and made the arrangements over the phone. Relieved to know she had she had somewhere now, it helped ease her anxiety. It sounded just perfect. A beachfront, top floor, old world style apartment with a kitchen and a balcony facing the sea. Immediate occupancy. With a name like Seashell Cove, how could she go wrong? The taxi hit a bump in the road, and it was the worst one yet. She hadn't considered renting a car, since everything about this escape was abrupt. She met the driver's gaze in the rearview mirror and then glanced away. She had supposed it wasn't his fault the road was so bad, but damn, this vehicle needed to be retired. Laura craved a massage, and after this car ride, her body would need it. Traveling along in the dark with only fireflies and moon rays to light the way felt perfect, mysterious, a new adventure in a new world. She had no clue what the light of day would reveal, and a small bloom of excitement budded inside her. This was definitely a step on a path less traveled for her. She should be recording it. Laura dug into her bag for her camera. She'd do her best to capture the ambience of the drive and began recording, panning the camera around, not saying a word, letting nature do the talking, and of course, the squeaks and grunts of the car as it bounced over the road. It would lend authenticity to the video. She sighed and leaned closer to the window and turned the camera toward herself. She looked into the lens and smiled, closing her eyes for a moment before facing the window, then turning the camera back to a stunning display of fireflies. "Would you mind stopping for a moment?" she asked the driver. "I'd like to hear the tree toads singing." "Of course, miss." He pulled over on a narrow shoulder of the road and parked the car. The softness of the night enveloped her, and the symphony of the tropical night surrounded her, almost bringing tears to her eyes. It was so lovely. "Thank you," Laura said, and rested her camera in her lap. "You're welcome, miss." They carried on, the sea on one side, the steep hills covered with tropical vegetation on the other. The road clung to the side of the cliffs, weaving in and out, reminding her of the road to Hana on Maui in Hawaii. Only this road had a lot more bumps and potholes. Hitting another one proved her point, and she clamped her lips when the tires bounced in and out of the hole. Her spine voiced its agony as well. The road climbed up the foliage-covered hill, leaving the sea behind. They appeared to be driving inland now, which was confusing since the apartment was beachfront. As they crested the hill, the driver slowed and turned off. Even though it was nighttime, Lara was in awe of the view before her and lifted her camera to take a shot. It probably wouldn't do the place any justice. The sea shifted under the full moon like molten silver. Lights from dwellings twinkled as if stars had been flung across the island. Then the view was gone behind a rise of trees as they drove down a steep hill. This road was better maintained than the one they turned off. Down they went. Laura held onto the door handle to steady herself. She'd never been on a road this steep, and the headlights caught a sign at the bottom indicating a hairpin turn. It seemed very precarious, and when the driver braked for the turn, she almost ended up on the floor. Finally, they emerged in a town, the treacherous drive over, hopefully. Righting herself in the seat, she let go of the handle and flexed her fingers. They drove into a village, and it was hopping. Music and laughter filled the streets. The aroma of food reminded her that she hadn't eaten in ages, and she hoped she could find a place close to her apartment. But seeing the crowds in all the cafes, bars, and restaurants was completely unexpected. Lara pressed her fist to her chest. Her heart pounded. Was it excitement, surprise, panic? She wasn't sure. The life and brightness of this little town appealed to her, and she was eager to explore it, but not right away. She needed to get her bearings first and heal her battered soul. Hopefully, Seashell Cove would help her do that while maintaining this vibrant atmosphere. They continued on past the edge of town, and the road took them back along the ocean and then curved away from the shoreline until the sea disappeared behind houses and more restaurants tucked in among the trees lining the beach. The car slowed. Laura craned her neck to see out the front window. A beautiful sign, lit from the bottom, highlighted the words Seashell Cove through the trimmed flowering bushes. She held her breath when they turned into the driveway. Cottages nestled under palms on either side of the drive, which was covered in crushed shells that reflected white in the moonlight. They wound through the bougainvillea and frangipani, all bursting with color. The scent of the frangipani was heavy on the night air. The driver stopped at the main building, a larger version of the cottages. She blinked back, the tears filling her eyes, angry at being so damn emotional. It was beautiful here, and she was overwhelmed by the splendor of this place. It held the same magical ambience as the forest they'd driven through. Fireflies still floated on the breeze. Twinkling lights hidden in the foliage lit up pathways, and she listened for tree frogs, smiling when she heard them peeping in the distance. It was time to forget why she was here and just be in the moment. Let go of the fact that she wasn't good at choosing men and moving on. Lara drew in a breath and let it out slowly. She pulled up the collar of her t-shirt to wipe the dampness from her eyes. Lifting the bag out of the taxi, she set it down and stood on the crushed shell driveway, pushing a strand of hair from her brow. Breathing in the scent of the ocean breeze and the flowers, her tension slipped away. The small courtyard was like a warm caress, and she embraced it. She believed in love at first sight, soulmates, till death do us part, and happily ever afters, until she didn't, thanks to. Nope, she refused to let him live rent-free in her brain any longer and decided he was dead to her. Like in a story, when a writer kills off the villain, that's what she did, right here, right now. Sure, there would probably be moments, but she'd get through them. Wrung out by all the emotions of the past few weeks, Laura needed to fill her well, and she had a feeling that this was the perfect place to do it. She paid the driver, grabbed her bag, gazed up the coral steps to the lobby. Through those doors, propped open, with big terracotta pots overflowing with flowers, was her new beginning. There we go. So that's chapter 1. I wonder, there's nobody here, but I'd said to the to Karen and to Tina, the organizer, that I could be half an hour to 45 minutes. So maybe what I can do now, I think the next chapter 2 is all about introducing you to the hero. So let's have a look. What do you think? I'll only read for a minute. Well, I've got a fly in here. Okay, chapter 2. Vance sat on his deck overlooking the sea. His seaside cafe was closed for the day, and he'd walked home along the beach. The cafe was doing well. He'd sunk a lot into it, and even with the heavier work schedule and financial drain, he was much happier here than he'd ever been as an executive chef in a 5-star restaurant. He was thankful for the opportunity. He'd learned a lot and gained valuable experience, which had been his plan all along, so he could venture out on his own, to open his own place. Landing here in Lunaris Key hadn't been what he'd expected, but in hindsight, it was exactly what he needed. He was a natural to island life and island time. He fell into it naturally, and it was exactly what he'd needed for his own sanity. Vance embraced the laid back way of doing things. He swirled the whiskey in his glass. He would never give up good whiskey. It was difficult to get certain items on the island, but his network was growing and obviously rolled out to the cafe where he could offer a variety of dishes, focusing mainly local fare with a touch of five-star dining, beach style. Gazing up at the sky, he was still filled with wonder at all the stars. It sounded corny, he knew, but he'd gained an appreciation for nature, the sea, the sky, weather, and enjoyed the grounding it gave him. He sighed. Having someone to share all this with would be a bonus. He told himself if it was meant to be, it was meant to be, and refrained from actually looking. He was aloof but friendly with the guests and had become quite expert at fending off the advances of both men and women. It wasn't the reason he was here, even though he'd been thinking more and more about sharing his life and building a family. He stretched his legs out, took a sip of whiskey, enjoying the fire as it traveled down his throat. What he wouldn't give right now for a cigar. Vance had done the nightlife scene, partied, lived the wild lifestyle, and definitely enjoyed himself. He'd been sucked into the instant gratification of sex, drinks, partying, like so many of his acquaintances. At his roots, he was a small town guy who'd done well, but it had begun to feel hollow, like there was something more he needed to do, and floating through the days in the kitchen, nightclubs, and high roller parties had done him in. He'd outgrown the city lifestyle, and finding solace here on Linares had surprised the hell out of him. When he'd stumbled across the beachside cafe for sale, he jumped all over it. Having his own business allowed him the freedom to do exactly what he wanted, cook what he wanted, live how he wanted, and not have to account to anyone other than himself. At 34, he'd had enough of the rat race and was quite happy to become a barefoot beach bum, which was exactly what he named the cafe. Beach bum, all lowercase. Vance smiled and downed the rest of his whiskey. Lightning flashed on the horizon. He liked a good thunderstorm when it rolled in. So far, he hadn't experienced a hurricane, and he was in no hurry to change that situation. He couldn't hear thunder, so he knew it was far enough off that the storm would likely stay out over the ocean. He yawned and stretched in the chair, his thoughts drifting back to today. The business was doing well, and he'd likely need to hire more staff. He'd broken even about 4 months ago, and now everything was gravy. He'd invested a lot of savings in Beach Bum, purchasing this home on the sea, and still had enough in the bank to be comfortable for years to come, which was important in the restaurant business. He'd learned that from experience. Beach Bum was his baby, and he was grateful the island community had welcomed and embraced him. He wasn't going anywhere anytime soon, if ever. Vance stood and groaned through another stretch. Yep, island life definitely agreed with him. He picked up his glass and wandered back into the house he'd snapped up for a song. The owners had been desperate to sell, and the timing was perfect. There were some issues he had to deal with, but that was fine with him. He'd made it home. He was living the dream, even if he was living it alone. So that was Vance and meeting him and what his little bit of life is like. And again, we currently have no viewers, and I hope that more people will come in later and watch this video and listen. And once again, I read from Stormy Affair, which is available in ebook and paperback. And as a reminder, there's a new cover for Get It On. We got rid of Mr. Grumpy Man. And this is my new cover for Passion Cowboy Style. And then my most recent release is Devotion. And it's book 3 in the Black Phantom series. Book 1 is Obsession. Book 2 is Temptation. Book 3 is Devotion. So here we go. And I'm currently writing a novel called Christmas Code. And it is going to be in a motorcycle club collaboration that the books I'll start releasing in November. My release date, or November and December. My release date is December 1st, and Code is the name of my hero in there, and he is the brother to Heather, who is the dominatrix in here. So there's a little bit of a tie-in between the two books. Now, I know there'll be posts coming up. I can't check right now while I'm talking live, but there'll be a post with a game where you can play it, and then you'll get, there'll be a draw for someone to get a free download of the new book with the new cover. Get it on. And there'll also be a few posts with my to sign up for my newsletter. And I have a YouTube channel. I would love it if you went over to my YouTube channel. The link should be there for that as well. And it it's great. I try and post this. I'm going to try and get posted over there too. I always have a hard time with these live posts trying to get them into YouTube, but we'll give it a whirl. So it was great being here, and I will check back in later and tomorrow for any comments that have happened, and hopefully you'll fill up the comment section here, and I can come back and answer a lot of your questions. So ask away. So I'm going to end the video now. Thank you so much for having me, and I will hopefully see you soon. I love this group. You're very, very engaging. And until next time, see you later.